Hi to whoever happens to see this. Um, Sorry to hear a little bit better. So, um, I haven't put a video on my channel for about 4 years, since like 2016. Kind of like, I would say a lot of things have happened since then. Um, or hopefully you can hear me well. Um, I probably look very different. I'm now no longer 16. I'm 20, and I thought it was as good a time as any to share this video if I post it. So basically, I was vegetarian for 4 years, and I've pretty much not been a vegetarian for about a year now. So, I mean, if you kind of put the pieces together, you can see that I was pretty much a vegetarian throughout like my whole high school life, and now I'm not. I look very different because of that. So I'm not entirely sure where to begin, but I guess I'll just start with when I became vegetarian and just try to keep it as short as possible. So basically, I became vegetarian when I would say probably 2015. It was March of 2015, which means it was like my sophomore year, more towards the end. And before then, I had pretty regular balanced diet. My mom has celiac disease, and my grandmother has a wheat allergy, and they live with me. And so pretty much throughout like my whole life, I've eaten mostly gluten-free, things like that. So I had no issues like excluding certain things from my diet. So I guess that's where I'm going to begin. Basically, I can be sort of like a perfectionist a lot. As you can see from my past videos, I was pretty much doing a lot of like very like particular work, focusing on like my planning, studying, things like that. And I happened to increase my workload by a lot. The videos that you see before are me doing IB in high school. Before then, I had never really pushed myself in school as much. I was pretty much a B student before then. Classes were pretty easy for me. So I decided I was going to take on this challenge of doing college level courses and filling up my schedule entirely with them. And that's kind of the person I am. I make really like sporadic decisions like that, impulsive decisions. And so that's what led me to do that. I would say the first couple years of being vegetarian was fine, but I would say that it did kind of become part of my identity, because when I was out with friends and things like that, I really had to focus on, what I would eat versus what they would eat, what I would eat in certain situations. And I became very particular about food, which was not really something that I focused on before. It was kind of an overnight thing. I started out becoming vegan, and I did that for a week to kind of break myself into vegetarianism. I have a lot of experience with veganism because, for a month or so I would try it and then go back, because I always felt that my diet was kind of lacking anyway, because in the school that I went to, it's kind of hard to find certain foods and things like that. One of the biggest things that I would eat during lunch when I didn't pack a lunch for myself was the French fries at school, which the French fries themselves were fine, but the only kind of condiment that would hold me off was like honey mustard, which did have egg yolks in it. So that was probably like mostly the one vegetarian I would eat during school, and then I would go home and I would cook myself more vegan types of meals and things like that. I happen to eat a lot of fake meals because, well, not fake meals, but fake meat meals. I would kind of pack my lunch with that. So for dinner, I would have like these like meal planned recipes. I would have like my fake meats, my like rice and beans, and then like some kind of vegetable, kale, broccoli rabe, all those kinds of things. And that was usually what I would eat. For breakfast, I would usually probably eat eggs, so that's why I would say vegetarian for sure. I rarely had honey, but I never, even when I was vegan, I didn't quite understand the issue with honey. I think that should be addressed a little bit better, because, I mean, if you do things about the flies in your house and, you know, you try to avoid rodents from sneaking in, like, it makes sense that you would have honey, especially local honey. I don't have any problems with that, considering that local beekeepers, they don't make it a mission to kill bees, so I never understood that. But basically, getting off topic, so I would say that vegetarianism really affected me when I had a heavier workload, which is why I would not suggest it for high school students, anything like that. I really don't suggest it for anybody. But so let me talk a little bit about my daily schedule. I was an IB, so I was studying most of the time. And besides that, I also was an ROTC student, so I would get up and be at school at 6 a.m. every morning for drill. Sometimes I would stay later for drill, and some days I had play practice because I was in the play, and they would keep me till like late hours of the night. So I, on average, had about 16-hour days at school, so it was very hard to find food. Therefore, I didn't feel comfortable being totally vegan, considering that even some vegan friends that I had didn't have as much going on as I did. And so I feel like I deteriorated a lot faster than they did. So I highly suggest eating meat. Just to get like extra nutrients, because I did take B12 supplements, iron supplements, whatever kind of supplements on the daily, and I felt like they actually made things a little bit worse. That's a different topic because I don't know very much about vitamins. But another thing that I struggled with eventually was that because my workload was so great, I didn't have very much energy to continue on during the day. I actually, in high school, I once got an award, I think in junior year, for being the most likely to faint at a drill competition because I could hardly stand guard. Even if I packed my lunch, even if I had snacks, things to eat, you know, I would always find a substitute for something. Never, ever once ate meat in that entire 4 years. And then came down to probably like senior year when things got pretty bad. I was nearing like my 4th year of veganism around that time. I would say like it was a year right before that. Vegetarianism. I'm sorry. I went in and out with veganism and vegetarianism very much. But basically, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I had to start going to therapy. I was having a lot of panic attacks, things like that, and so I went through a lot of therapy. I got to a point where I actually developed agoraphobia, which means I was very afraid of going outside and things like that, so I missed a lot of school, which really started to affect my studies and things like that. Because I had missed most of school, I ended up admitting myself into, I don't know if there's a better term for it, but it's a mental hospital. I was in the psych ward. I was there for, I think, like 7 or 10 days. I can't entirely remember because it was all just like one blur. But there I was also vegetarian, made things very hard. I was exhibiting a lot of symptoms of an iron deficiency, and I didn't realize that that was related to the issues that I was having. And so I just give people a warning for things like that. The first thing that they did when I was there was give me ferritin or ferrous sulfate, which is just another word for iron, to try and make sure that iron wasn't the issue and wasn't what I was lacking in. They could not figure it out. From there, I actually, in order to get out of the hospital, because I just went there to get proper medication for like my mental illness, I ended up being transferred to, well, I was 18 at that time, but because I was still in high school, I was transferred to like this kind of like adolescent program. And I was there for months. I would do schoolwork there. I was in the program. I missed out on pretty much my whole high school career. When I got back, I had about a month of school left, and I basically could not finish by then even getting out of there. During that time, I was taking a certain medication called Misperdal. It's basically because I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, things like that. And so they basically, they gave me Risperdal, which actually made me gain a lot of weight. And I had never gained weight before like that in my life. I gained about 30 pounds, I would say. And that was rough, but I was still vegetarian during that time. Now, when I got out of the program, what I actually did was decide to not finish off with school, well, with my senior year, which was a difficult decision, but it was either go to school for that last 13 days and go every day and get all my work done, which I did not feel like I had the capacity to do, even just 13 days, or go to summer school, still miss out on graduation. So basically, I knew that that was pretty much my options. I decided that I was going to leave school, become a home instruction student or a homeschooling student, and I went to an online academy. And that was really great for me. I redid my whole senior year, and by the end of the time that I was redoing my senior year, which it was really great to just be inside and just work on that. Oh yeah, before that I was also working a job in the middle of all the other things I was doing. I had to quit my job because I was like seriously not fit for it. I had a car accident, so I had trauma from that. So I thought it was all trauma from the car accident that was like causing this and all those things and stuff like that. Bipolar disorder runs in my family. So that was just like a given that that was definitely the situation. But yeah, so by the end of my senior year, like the official one, I started watching a lot of videos, and I started to understand that like vegetarianism wasn't exactly the answer. And it wasn't necessarily that I was going back on like my idea of the animals or this or that or that in general. I was mostly concerned about health. And I started to understand that, you know, my interpretation of animal husbandry being a bad thing wasn't. And I could go into that for a long time. But I feel that what I do now really helps more for the animals than what I ever did. And then from there, I ended up eventually transitioning into eating meat again. That was an interesting story. The first thing I ate was, I think I just went straight for a steak. I had not eaten one in a long time. I almost threw up. It was disturbing. It was disturbing. because I couldn't really shake that thought from my head. So I really relate to a lot of these other people and their stories and stuff like that of quitting veganism, vegetarianism, things like that. And so basically, from there, I started eating other forms of meat because I found that even in that one day, I started to see extreme changes to my anxiety, my behavior. It was the one thing that started to like stabilize everything. And eventually it helped me within a month to cut down on my medication. I eventually stopped taking my medication. I was still going to therapy, but I stopped taking my medication, eventually stopped going to therapy. My anxiety was nowhere to be found for a really long time. And then, because I went off my medication, I lost all those 30 pounds. So I looked a little crazy at first because it was kind of just like water weight from the medication. But all in all, I found that this was one of the best things that helped my mental health. And so it's really hard to make this video and to consider that I would be in the labeling of like ex-vegetarian stories and that I could possibly be, criticized for this. But truly, I feel like the current diet that I'm on is the one that I need to be on to help my mental health and make it so that I can continue with the things that I need to do, my studies, going to work every day, and now I'm constantly, working on managing my health so that I can, contribute to my life, because I do feel like it has set me back. Vegetarianism has set me back from a lot of things. I'm at a later start than I feel like anybody else is. Not that that matters, but for me, it does a little bit. And so I realize I don't care about people's criticisms because this was the best option for me and for my life. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for right now. But that's my story. I don't know if anybody else can relate, if they've had like an issue with both mental illness and vegetarianism or veganism, but that was something that contributed a lot to my life. I also experienced a lot of other health issues. I couldn't heal from certain sicknesses being on a vegetarian diet. I had pneumonia. At one point, I had caught pneumonia probably at the beginning of the time that I'd started vegetarianism, and it didn't go away for about 2 years that we found out. So I had underlying pneumonia for that entire time. I no longer have issues with asthma. There's just a lot of things that I've noticed. And even though I had experienced those things sort of beforehand, I feel like a lot has to do with the fact that I have changed my diet significantly now to what it was before. So when I say get educated on what you should be eating, I mean don't just listen to what people say online. Read books. Don't watch debunked documentaries and propaganda. Read books. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching.